I used to think the most unbearable sound in the world was the silence that followed an argument, the kind that presses down on a room, thick and suffocating like fog. But I was wrong. The worst sound I ever heard came from the woman I loved. It was her laugh, not warm or shared like it used to be, but biting, cold, and filled with mockery. The moment I asked if she was having an affair with her boss. Alyssa and I had been married for 7 years. We never had children. Both of us had demanding careers. She worked in marketing, and I managed logistics. Somehow, through all the stress and long hours, we managed to hold on to each other. We went on date nights, exchanged unexpected gifts, talked late into the night. I believed others looked at us with envy. But something had changed. Lately, she'd grown distant. Her workdays stretched later. Her smile had lost its warmth. Her phone was always in her hand. A new perfume lingered on her skin, one I didn't recognize. She laughed at her screen but barely glanced in my direction. I noticed it all but convinced myself I was imagining things. Alyssa couldn't betray me. This was the same woman who once cried from happiness when I surprised her with spontaneous weekend trips. I held on to that hope like it was a lifeline, even as it slipped through my fingers. So when I finally asked her, "Are you sleeping with your boss?" what hit me wasn't anger, it was dread. She hesitated just long enough to confirm what I already feared. Then she laughed, sharp, dismissive. "Are you serious?" she said, her voice thick with disbelief. "Daniel, you've been watching too many thrillers." She turned it back on me, called me paranoid, insecure, pathetic. In that moment, everything I thought we had fell apart. I didn't need her to admit it. Her reaction told me everything. 2 days later, she claimed she had to stay late at work for a campaign deadline. I didn't believe her. I drove to her office and parked where I could watch. Gregory Lane, her boss, left the building first. A few minutes later, Alyssa followed. Her hair was messy, cheeks flushed, jacket wrinkled. She kissed him on the cheek before walking to her car. I stayed hidden in the dark, watching. I didn't confront her. I didn't shout or cry. I just stood there as something inside me shifted, something colder and quieter than heartbreak. I didn't let on. I didn't accuse her. I let her keep up the act. I gave her room to hang herself with her lies. Over the next few days, she pretended nothing was wrong. But the signs of stress crept in. She looked pale, worn down. Said she was feeling sick, nauseous. Skipped dinner. Blamed it on work. Then came the moment everything broke. It was Tuesday morning. I was drinking coffee when I heard her scream from the bathroom. I ran in and found her on the floor, trembling, crying, barely dressed. "It burns," she sobbed, curled up in pain. I drove her to the ER in silence. She didn't look at me when the doctor came back with the diagnosis. "You've tested positive for trichomoniasis," he said gently. "It's a sexually transmitted infection. It's treatable, but it requires both partners to be tested." Alyssa looked like her world had collapsed. "Daniel, I swear." "Don't," I said, calm and flat. "Don't make it worse." What she didn't know was that I already had all the answers. I'd hired a private investigator weeks ago. Marcus had been tracking her movements, collecting screenshots, messages, photos. 2 days before her hospital visit, he'd sent me a full report. Gregory, her boss, had been involved with at least 2 other women at the company. One had been paid off quietly. The other was threatening legal action. The evidence was indisputable. And now I had it in my hands. That night, while Alyssa slept under the effect of her medication, I copied the files onto 3 USB drives. One I sent anonymously to the board of directors at her company. The second went to HR, accompanied by a typed note warning of more potential lawsuits. The storm had been brewing for a while. I knew it was only a matter of time before everything began to unravel. By Friday, Alyssa still hadn't returned to work. She told everyone it was the flu, but I knew better. She was stalling, trying to delay the inevitable. But the clock had run out. It started around 9:15 a.m. She was curled up on the couch, bundled in a hoodie, when her phone vibrated. She answered casually, but after a few seconds, her expression changed, eyes wide, voice suddenly tense. "Yes, I'll be there in 30 minutes. Without another word, she bolted upstairs, hands shaking as she dressed and grabbed her purse. Everything okay? I asked, calm and collected. Just HR stuff. Probably about my time off, she replied with a forced smile. I nodded. You'll be fine. I watched her leave, fully aware that this was just the beginning. The foundation was about to crack, and I intended to be there to witness it all come down. Later that day, Marcus updated me. HR had received 2 anonymous reports. One of them included hard proof. Gregory had been engaged in inappropriate relationships within the company, and his personal medical history only worsened the situation. HR wasn't sweeping it under the rug. Alyssa had been called into a confidential meeting. They questioned her about any involvement with Gregory Lane, whether she knew of others who might have experienced similar behavior, and if she'd ever received any special treatment in return for favors. She kept herself composed until they mentioned potential legal consequences, not just for Gregory, but for her too. That's when the mask started to slip. It wasn't a full breakdown, not yet, but the seams were beginning to split. 2 hours later, Marcus sent me a photo. Gregory Lane outside the building, flanked by security, carrying a box. Terminated, effective immediately. Not because Alyssa came clean, but because someone, me, had already distributed those damning USB drives to his rivals. One of them leaked it to the press. The fallout was instant. The headlines were everywhere. A high-ranking executive ousted over misconduct and a health controversy. Overnight, Gregory's name became untouchable. That evening, Alyssa came home in silence. I kept dinner going, pretending not to know. Everything all right? I asked as I stirred the sauce. Gregory was fired, she said quietly. Really? That's shocking. What happened? She hesitated. HR got reports, things he did with other women. I guess he finally got caught. I gave her a warm, supportive look. That's awful. Are you okay? She nodded, but her face said otherwise. She disappeared into the other room, lost in thought. But she still didn't understand. It wasn't over. The worst was yet to come. Alyssa thought she could distance herself from the scandal. That she could walk away, claim ignorance, deny everything, pretend the affair didn't matter. But I wasn't going to let her rewrite history. The truth was ready to come out. Marcus had compiled everything, private messages between her and Gregory, emails suggesting favoritism, especially her receiving exclusive leads. Even photos, some bordering on inappropriate, others quietly damning. Then there were the medical records. Gregory had tested positive for an STD months ago. Alyssa's results followed not long after. This wasn't just an affair. It was a violation of ethics, a betrayal of trust, and a misuse of position. I took it all and uploaded it to an anonymous Dropbox account. Then I composed a short, direct message. In light of recent developments, you may wish to investigate this matter further. Regards, a concerned professional. I sent it to the board of directors, the PR team, 2 investigative journalists, and a handful of key clients that Alyssa's team had been courting. By midday, my phone was buzzing non-stop. The firestorm had officially begun. Gregory wasn't the only one. At first, no one even mentioned Alyssa. But the internet doesn't keep secrets for long. Reddit threads lit up. LinkedIn whispers turned into patterns. People started connecting the dots. Screenshots surfaced in anonymous forums. Her inbox blew up. Then, the phone stopped ringing. Clients disappeared. And within a week, she was told her role was being restructured. That was corporate speak for, you're out. That night, she sat on the couch, no distractions, no glass of wine, just silence and a 1,000-yard stare. They let me go today, she whispered. I didn't rush to comfort her. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, keeping my tone flat. She looked at me, eyes narrowing. Was it you? Did you do this? I didn't flinch. No, Alyssa. You did this. I just made sure people knew. Tears started slowly. Then came the sobs, heavy and raw. Was it guilt? Or panic? I didn't ask. I stayed still. You laughed at me when I asked you for the truth, I said. Now the truth is laughing at you. I stood, walked toward the door. Then I gave her the last sentence she'd remember for the rest of her life. Your key won't work tomorrow. Don't come back. The next morning, she was outside. Same clothes, tear-streaked face, voice cracking. Daniel, please. I have no one left. I didn't open the door. You had me, I said through the glass. And you destroyed that the moment you turned my trust into a joke. She sank to the ground, crying. I didn't mean to ruin it. It was just one mistake that kept going. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. You didn't lose me, I said. You betrayed me. There's a difference. I closed the door. Weeks passed. Silence answered her every attempt to claw back her old life. No calls, no interviews. Family support began to fade. She tried to post a vague denial online, hints at misunderstandings and unfair blame, but it backfired. People laughed. Comments were brutal. She wasn't just unemployed. She was untouchable. Gregory vanished. Last I heard, he moved to Florida trying to start a consulting gig no one took seriously. I didn't gloat. I didn't make cryptic posts or share smug quotes. Revenge isn't about putting on a show. The best revenge is living a life they'll never witness again. I bought a one-way ticket west. Found a quiet place. Got a new job. Took long hikes. Slept peacefully. No more lies. No more drama. One day, a letter came. No return address. Just 3 words on the back. I'm truly sorry. I didn't open it. I tossed it in the trash. That story was finished, not just a chapter. The whole book was closed. So, was it justice? Or was it revenge? You decide.